we are pulling or removing or deleting item 15.01 this evening from our agenda. And with that, do we have a motion and second? All right, Ms. Carlton makes that motion. Ms. Mathis seconds it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. The approval of our last minutes on July the 12th, regular school board meeting.
Motion.
All right, Ms. Agner makes that motion.
Second.
All right, Ms. Carlton seconds it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. We have several workshops this evening, and the very first one would be the discussion of the request to add sixth grade to the Steinhatchee School. So, Ms. Superintendent.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So as you all know, we had some parents that came from Steinhatchee last time, and I believe Ms. Bowie out in the audience. And so I said that we would workshop that and we would see if that were feasible. And Ms. Bowen can correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the issues that they're facing down there is normally the students that are in fifth grade historically would leave Steinhatchee School. The ones that are on the Dixie County side, I think your child's you're on the Dixie County side, correct? They would matriculate to Ruth Raines High School in Dixie County for middle school. However, did Ruth Raines get some hurricane damage? Is that what happened? Something happened and they're having to repair Ruth Raines Middle School. So the superintendent there is going to hold those students that would have normally from their Anderson Elementary, which is in Dixie County. He's having to hold them in Anderson Elementary for their sixth grade year. So the request came to us to see if we could, add sixth grade to Steinhatchee School. And so we know that we get isolated funding for that school, but I wasn't opposed to it. I really wanted to have time to work with our finance director to see if that was a possibility. So at this time, Lacey's going to come up and she's going to share with you all what she's put together for that.
Did you get to contact the state?
Ma'am,
Did you get to contact the state?
I did.
Yeah.
Several times. Yes. So.
Thank you. So I've got a slide PowerPoint presentation for us. We're just going to look at the current data as of the fiscal year end, the future data, what it would look like if we did add the sixth grade, and then a determination going forward. So the current data, like I say, as of fiscal year end June 30, we had 99 students enrolled at the Steinhatchee School in grades K through 5. So our state generated revenue based off of that FTE number is $758,220. In addition to that state revenue, we also received the small isolated school funding, and the guidelines for that are the enrollment has to remain between 28 and 100 students. So we received an additional $882,744 for that, which brings our grand total of revenue received to $1,640,964. Our expenditures to operate that school are $1,555,885. That is everything possibly included: transportation, operation of plant, everything. So that leaves us a very small remaining balance of $85,078. So the future data would look like this. Approximately 13 students would be the enrollment for the sixth grade edition. So our total FTE would increase to 112 students from 99. The state revenue that we would receive based off of that 112 student FTE would be $857,784. We did hear back from Department of Education, and if our enrollment is over 100 students at that school, we lose that small isolated school funding. So that would be zero. So we would get no additional revenue. So that would have our revenue total for the school at $857,784. Our expenditures would go up slightly because we have to add a teacher for sixth grade. We have to add curriculum. Now we're having an extra classroom, which is going to have utilities and operational cost. So that would go up to $1,625,005, which would put us in a deficit of $767,221. which is not sustainable for our small school district. And here's just a graph to show. The green is the revenue, the yellow is the expenditures, and the orange is the balance. So as you can see, the first section of current looking pretty good. When you go to future, we're in the red big time.
And we went to the state and we asked the question
Yes, as Lacey said, yes,
that we can't.
yes.
They said you cannot take out a group. So like you can't exclude, like whatever grades are at that school, you have to include in that enrollment number. So you wouldn't be able just to do K-5, you'd have to count K-6.
Okay. Okay, question? Yes, ma'am.
What about, like, right now, we have our,
Could you stand up and,
sorry, we have our pre-K right now? How come, is that a different funding?
Doesn't count.
It is, yes, ma'am. Pre-K does not count towards that.
And then have we also evaluated what happened?
Then we would lose the funding if we go with 100, bottom line. Right now, we're projected to be at 95 students next year. So that number has gone a little bit more, and we are going to have to, we've recently updated our policies. They are being, they're on for public comment right now, but in 2017 or 20, we went to, we had to come up with a policy for controlled open enrollment. So what that means is if we have capacity, we allow children in, but if we don't have capacity, then students from other, like if you have an address, let's say in Lafayette County, you may or may not be able to come to Steinhatchee School. I mean, that's how it is in every, city, every county. It's called controlled open enrollment. So that's probably why those numbers have gotten to where they are right now, because that 99 that we had last year, those are not all Taylor County students. Those are Dixie County students, Columbia, and I think there might have been a Lafayette. I can't remember. So that's why the number's even that high, because it's not only Taylor County students going to that.
Do we have a bus that comes from Steinhatchee to Taylor County? And
I'm sorry, do
brings-
we have what?
Do we have a bus that comes from
Absolutely,
Steinhatchee
yes,
to
ma'am. And that's what
Taylor
we
County
said
to
it-
bring the sixth graders
Yes,
to here?
and we noted that last time, that
Okay.
we would be happy if we have capacity at our middle school. If any of those students that are on the Dixie County side want to come to, be bused, if we don't provide transportation from Dixie County, but from the Taylor County line, we would bus them to our middle school if we have capacity there, which I believe, Casey's told tonight, she probably doesn't off the top of her head, but I believe, it would depend on, I think there's room in sixth grade, if I'm not mistaken. I'm 100% sure I can say that because I think I looked at numbers today. So I know we're not at capacity in our sixth grade in Taylor County middle school. So if those students wanted to come to us, we'll be happy to have them. Be happy to let them come to the middle school.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So Lacey, you said when we was looking at 99, that was 99 students from the 23-24 school year?
Yes, ma'am.
And right now, we're projecting 95 students for the 24-25 school year. So is that like based off what your previous enrollment? Like, are you certain that there are no other students that will put us over 95 in regards to the Steinhatchee community, far as K-5?
There's no certainty on the kids that are going to enroll. Right now, we're between 95 and 100, and that's where we've been at for the last 3 years. It's kind of right in that range right there.
Mhm.
And, the state does 2 FTE counts. They do one in October.
Mhm.
They do more than that, but as far as main counts are in October and in February. And the ones that they look at for isolated school funding is that one in February.
Okay, so I think her question, what's your name, ma'am? Okay, Ms. Bowe, I think her question was like currently if we're projected to be at 95, and if Steinhatchee students produce over the 100, what we're gonna do with those 5 students?
So we haven't, so we would keep them. We would have them.
We would
probably.
have them,
We
but
would
their
have-
option would be to come into town.
Well, okay, so it's a couple different things here. So I can't speak for what happened prior be sitting, but what I know is we haven't minded the open enrollment pot per se. I guess you could say we've just allowed people to come from other districts, whether or not we had room for them. And that's what's caused that number to get where it's at right now. If you only had Taylor County students in Steinhatchee right now, Jimmy, what would you be at? Maybe 89, 88?
Okay.
So
So I understand that part. I understand. So I'm assuming you guys will be making sure you're looking at enrollment since we're close to those numbers.
yes, ma'am.
But if we turn someone around, that's what I'm saying. If they're not in our community, I know we don't really have that concern. But if it is a student that has a Steinhatchee address, their option would be to come into town, correct?
For the ones that are coming to sixth grade?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. And even
Okay.
the ones who are
Well,
coming-
even if they're K-5, and they're,
No, if they're K-5, we would serve them at that school. And we may
even
end
though
up-
if it's over 100.
we may end up losing the isolated. You really can't pick and choose if they're your students and they're in that Steinhatchee area. If they're,
That's why I'm asking, because I think that's what her question was. Am I correct? Okay, so that's what I'm asking. Do we have a plan for that?
I mean, I don't know how you come up with a plan for that other than we have to mind the pot. We have not minded that pot. We have let other counties bring their students into our school, and that has caused us to go up to that number. And it's fine, we want to be able to serve them, but let's just say, and I'll let Jimmy, maybe he can, Jimmy, you might have to help me, take first grade this year. Class size is 18. I think you had 20 kids in first grade. It might have been second grade. I might have my grades mixed up.
Last year's first grade was around 20. That is now
Okay.
adjusted.
Class size is 18, okay? So what the state of Florida says is if it's 18, you can hold 10% back, which means we only have to have 16 Taylor County students in that first grade
Mm-hmm,
classroom, and then we don't have to accept anybody from anywhere else. That's
Okay.
our choice. They have to apply. It's a whole thing in policy that we've just recently, that we've adopted that tells you how to apply every year. Nevertheless, so we had 4 students in that class that were from other counties that were not Taylor County students. You correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 4.
Not certain.
Might have been, I don't, we have it. Might have been 6. I don't know. But because we didn't, because have not been minding that, that's how that number's gotten to that point.
mm-hmm.
We've got to go back and let them apply and follow the policy, which we've, like I said, we've just gone with Neola, the board, we've been working on this policy. We've got them out for public review right now. But that's what that policy says. Every year they have to apply to come to Taylor County.
Especially with the vouchers.
So have that occurred?
No.
Okay, so I guess that's why I'm asking. I know you said we wouldn't have to deal with it too, but I think since we do know that technically we will probably have less than 90 if it was Steinhatchee, but since we do know the funding is capping us at 100 students. So I guess far as I know, we do focus and I know we do different things to try to get our parents to go ahead and let us kind of anticipate what to expect. So I guess I'm just wondering, can we go ahead and be putting some type of alerts out for the area to let them know that, this may be a concern moving forward since we're right there at 95. I guess I wouldn't want us to see that we get 100 students and then we look up on the first or second day at school, we have students coming in from Steinhatchee that have not did registration, but we've already accepted a student from Lafayette or Dixie County. So I guess that's why I'm asking this question.
And so I think Jimmy and I have had conversations about this a few weeks ago when we were at Pace, and he's talked with his registrar, and we can't predict what may or may not come tomorrow or 2 weeks from now, but we do know that moving forward, if someone comes in outside of Taylor County, they have to fill out that thing, and they will only be allowed to enroll if we have the capacity. We can't go back, but we can go forward.
Well, I know you said for outside, but my concern is inside.
What you're asking is, what if Taylor County has?
Yes,
100
if we
plus
have
students?
somebody that
We'll
comes.
deal with it when it comes. I understand what you're saying.
Right.
He'll-
Well, I just want to make sure we putting the correct information out,
Historically,
so,
those students have
Mhm.
gone to pre-K with Jimmy.
right.
Historically, am I saying this correct, Jimmy? Historically, they have gone from pre-K to kindergarten. So if they were going to come into kindergarten, they probably would have already been in his pre-K program. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, if you get move-ins, like you would at any school, we just have about 3 grades in a row that are like 20 kids in a grade, which is uncommon by Steinhatchee standards. kindergarten and first grade now are back around 13 kids, which is more historical average. And so, I mean, if we can get the larger groups through the system, then, you know, it would be easier down around something that'll keep us under the 100 kids. But I've lived this for 3 years of just on the edge of my seat every day, going to go over that number, and it's
I'm going to add a little more stress to it. If you've got the $85,000 left, can we serve 5 students with that money?
What is that? What are you talking about?
That would
We've
carry.
got, we've got room for 5 more.
No, we don't.
No.
No, that she was saying.
No,
95?
No, ma'am, you don't want to do.
You don't
no.
want to be at max.
I'm just saying, adding stress to the factor.
Cushion room.
it's
No, ma'am.
it's fluid when the situation's fluid, kids come in. We've got a couple that might be out there right now that we're talking with that are kids in.
Mhm,
And we're between 95 and 100, like I said earlier.
mhm.
Situation.
And that doesn't count pre-K. With pre-K, Steenhatchee School is,
Yeah.
numbers are much
I'm
higher.
I'm
They
just
don't count
saying, if
against
we
us,
get below a certain number,
28.
and, well, we get where, like you're talking about the 13 and the 13, and then, you know,
That's not below
they
a
get through
number.
this system, years down the road, if we get to 80 and we can serve the 12.
We
or-
always will, yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
I
that's
think-
what I'm saying. We
we-
should leave this open for
But we
that.
do, we
Yeah,
do,
Okay.
we do, but they just have to apply. If they're not Taylor County, they should have to apply.
Mhm.
And there's a lottery system. It's all in the policy.
Mhm.
There's a, you know,
Especially with vouchers now, it should be that
they,
way.
they
Mhm.
apply. And first of all, we feel very grateful that that Dixie County students want to come to Steenhatchee. Steenhatchee's an awesome school, and I get it. I would want my child to stay there. But this is what it is.
Mhm.
Well, isn't it, I mean, isn't it, if some other students from other counties want to come to middle school or whatever, they still have to apply?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not something
And
different.
we
So
have
either we-
students here that go to Lafayette, y'all. We
Gotta-
know that.
Either we
I
got to
mean,
keep it under this
capacity.
100 mark, or we got to get enough to make it worth the $800,000.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, so that's a
It's a
huge,
lot.
200 kids.
that's too,
Yeah.
we got to recruit, we got to
Sure.
recruit over 100 kids. So we're kind of in a,
no, even then, we
Yeah.
wouldn't be breaking even.
yeah.
And so I think Lacey
Yeah.
can speak to that a little bit about what she's seen in her side hustle.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I have seen with the real estate market, there are a lot of people moving into Steenhatchee. I mean, their population's definitely growing. I guess the good thing for us to be able to keep that funding is not a lot of young families. It's, you know, older people that can afford the price of those homes that are on the water. So that is one plus
Yeah.
for us. I mean, it is growing, but it's not growing with kids that are overpopulating our school that would cause us to lose funding.
That's a good point. A lot of families that do live there work at the marinas, and I mean, the job market there is low wage. So a lot of young families don't, you know, come and stay and raise their kids there because it doesn't have the industry that they would want to have there. So, but I do think that at some point, capacity for Steenhatchee School, if each class was at capacity, would be 117 students.
Something like that, yeah. 116, right? I think it was
I
116.
do think that there, I mean, obviously, I think we're all disappointed to hear this about sixth grade. But maybe at some point down the road, we can have conversations about the legislation with our legislators and see if we could at least get permission to go to capacity. And then at that point, we're full anyway.
Or, yeah.
All we could do is ask.
But,
Mhm.
but what I'm hearing is this being monitored? You
It
know,
is,
that's-
it
that's
is.
the-
And like, it's worthy to note that the other school, Jeannie, tell me again what the high school is that's right there in Levy County,
Cedar Key.
Cedar Key. So they have isolated funding as well, but when they did their legislation, theirs is different than ours. So they were grade specific, and whenever we did ours, we were not grade specific. So they get the isolated funding as long as they're technically a maybe pre-K 12 school, and they have over 100, but in the statute, it says they only look at their grades 9 through 12. They can't go over 100 in grades 9 through 12. That's the
Not the whole
distinction
school,
between
right.
them and us. So hindsight's, 2020, but if when we did that, I know, Ms. Jeannie, I know you really worked hard on
Yeah.
that legislation, because I know at the time when we received the isolated funding, Steenhatchee School was on the verge of being closed. We all remember those
Mhm.
Yeah,
days.
absolutely.
So thankful to Ms. Mathis and some other people who were in Steinhatchee at that time that worked on that and fought for this isolated funding. But we didn't know to put that grade specific kind of band in there.
Yeah.
So this may be something that if that community is, and there does seem to be interest, we can go back and talk to our legislators. It's just not something we can snap our fingers and make happen for this year coming up. It's,
But I do-
now's the time to start having those conversations. And Ms. Mathis, has said that she doesn't mind speaking to those legislators, and I don't mind as, it's probably. some
I
other
think we
ones
should
will
do
too.
it as a district, make
Right.
sure we
Glad
express
to
that
talk,
concern
glad to talk.
to.
Right.
So basically, what we're going to be asking for going forward is that 6 through 12 in Steinhatchee be pulled out of that K through 5.
Well, we can ask for yes, and we can ask for
Okay.
anything because that's how it is in the other school. They only look at their 9 through 12.
Right, so we
They
just
don't let
wanted to
that
look
go
at our
over
K
100.
through 5.
So we can
period.
ask,
And I actually,
That takes a while. but we
just
will
today,
figure
I
it
got a
out.
message from Senator Latvala, who was the senator at the time. And he said, is there anything you need from me? And I think I need a conversation with him. Tell us when you looked at this bill and when you made those decisions, what is it going to look like for the legislator or to the DOE if we come forward and ask these questions? How do we need to word them? I think probably that's a good place to start.
But if
So I will
understand-
do that.
If I understand what y'all were saying earlier, the capacity of Steinhatchee School is how many students?
117.
That's all you can house?
That's every class
so
full.
here's what capacity is. Okay, so there's some confusion. So capacity is so grades K through 3, class size is 18 per class.
Mhm.
4th and 5th is 22. So
Mhm.
all we did was, we said if we had one class, which that's what they have right now, that's where Jeannie's getting that number of. So if you take K12, which is what, K1, 2, 3, multiply that times 18, that's where we got the, whatever it was, 116 or 117.
Right.
That would be like they were at capacity for right now, what we have K through 5. That's it.
Mhm, mhm.
But
But 6 through 12, if we took that away from that part and you just had 6 through 12 in there,
Well, we've never had
we,
12.
well,
Well, I know,
first of all,
but-
we'd have to look at, first of
6,
all, we'd
7,
have to
8.
look at the physical space in the school. Jimmy's very
that's
concerned
my
about that.
question.
Yeah.
Is there room
And not for 6 through 12. Now,
No.
we could maybe,
8, 6, 7, 8?
well, we had, at one time,
Right.
we went up to 8th grade, but that's been a while back. We'd have to,
I know they had the gymnatorium and they had the baseball
Right.
fields and all that,
yeah,
so.
well, that would be, that's something we could certainly look at, but because at one point it was K8.
Yeah, if
Um,
we're going to our legislators, we need to know these things before we start talking to them.
But so
I think historically, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to think the most students we have ever had, and that was K through 8th,
Mhm.
was 267, something like that.
I
So
remember.
that's a lot of kids out there, but we put them somewhere, and Jimmy, like, where did you put them? They were in tents in the back lawn.
So when we had them out there, did you say we used the portables, Jimmy?
Better go back and look at those numbers.
I want to say 3 of them.
Right.
And that's what I was gonna say.
Pre-K usually
And did we do pre-K down there back then? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm,
I'd
I
have to
don't
go
think
back.
so.
and
We
look.
didn't
But we
have
don't
pre-K.
even still have all those portables
Pre-K
down there
was at the
anymore because
church
we got
then.
rid of some of those portables. We don't even have all those portables anymore.
And,
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's some used for storage. They're not in the best condition.
Or not.
Mhm.
So can I ask this question, Jimmy, your 5th graders that graduated this year, how many were they?
16.
16?
17, one of them is going to be back. again.
Okay. And of this 13 that is it Miss Bowen? How many of that 13 are Taylor County's kids? Oh, okay. All right.
Jimmy could
Okay.
probably tell you.
So do we know the plan for those?
For Taylor, I would say.
Are those, other than, the opportunity to come here, have those parents made preparations? Okay.
All right. Well, one thing for sure, we've kind of been up and down with Steinhatchee over the years. A few years ago, we didn't have enough students, didn't know if we was going to be able to keep it open. And then we're here now, the borderline, which is good. I mean, back then, I can still remember, thinking about the possibility of having to shut down, the school down at Steinhatchee, and not something that I don't think nobody really, really wanted. So we be thankful that we are at the point where we're at, and then some of these other things that's been talked about as far as, numbers and grades and so forth, that's something that has to be really looked into with some real numbers and real thought, before you make some decisions down the road to change the complexion of what we have at Steinhatchee right now. I feel for Madison County, as we all know, that they're closing down all their outside small schools from Greenville, Lee, and so forth. And I know that there's parents that are hurt, their hearts are heavy because, the children won't be able to go right there next to their dwellings. But, we don't want to find ourselves in that position if we any way possible. And so we just need to be sure that we ought to be thankful where we're at, but then as we move forward, if we make any other types decisions, increasing or whatever, that we got our homework and make sure that we're doing the right decision
Absolutely.
to hopefully avoid, some of the things that's happening in some of the other neighboring counties. Anything else on this?
Was there any more? Ms. Boying, did you have any more, or?
I brought this up because I really think it needs. Post-COVID, people can work remote, can work anywhere. I think a lot of people want to prepare for my younger child that maybe. Want to make sure that as a school board.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
And thank you, Carrie, very much for bringing it up and giving us so much to, for our future to think about and work on. And you
Mhm.
brought up a lot of good points that we need to look at. Appreciate you.
And thank you for
Thank
having
you.
faith in our,
Yeah.
small school.
Thank you.
Thank you for, thank you.
Thank you, Lacey.
I just want to,
Ray, we're so glad that people are busting down our
Yeah.
door wanting to go to Steinhatchee right now. Thank you.
I know
Thank
they all
you,
love you as much
Chrissy.
as we do.
mhm.
Ms. Donnell, you have something to
Yeah,
say?
I want to thank Ms. Bowen, but she does bring up a good point, and I think it's something we know we need to do. I think this year, as we're moving into, this next legislative session, this is a conversation we need to have with Senator Simon as well as Representative Schoaf, as well as any other person as far as the Education Committee or deals with this isolated bill. But I do want to make sure that we do have some language moving into this 24-25 school year, making sure the community or the families that are servicing receiving services Steinhatchee know, what the statute says in regards to school choice and capacity and the servicing of the students. So it will be on a first come, first served basis, I'm aware of, because I know I've participated in school choice, but we just need to make sure that community is aware of that information, because we want to make sure we're serving to those students. And like you say, prepare for the future. I think it's just something that we will need to definitely address in our strategic plan when we embark upon that this year. So I definitely hope we don't leave this here. We just, make note of it and move forward with it.
Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Deidre.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, anything else? If not, we'll
Thank you,
move to
Lacey.
this, to the second workshop, Discipline Matrix.
Okay, at this time, I have a couple of our deans coming up. They're going to talk to us about some things that they've been working on this summer. Jerry, if you want to hit that screen real quick so it won't go.
I am Missy Gray. I'm one of the deans at the middle school, and this is Jerry Webb. He is the dean at the elementary school. They don't usually let me speak publicly because no one ever knows what's going to come out of this mouth, including myself. But Jerry did ask me to open up, so I guess I will do that. To start with, as the last school year closed, Ms. Bashir has asked all of the deans to come together and kind of create a new discipline plan. It's been a while since we've had a matrix that was board approved. And to kind of streamline discipline across the district so that our parents, our students, our staff, everyone had the same expectations, everyone had the same understanding of how our schools were going to work. So we've had problems in the past where, kids would come to the middle school and the rules were a little bit different at the elementary school. So we met once or twice before the school year ended, multiple times over this summer, and we have created what we feel like is a plan that would work for all students K-12. And I guess this is it. Let's go over it.
Yeah, and thank you, Ms. Bashirs, for initiating this because I think this is years overdue. So last year at this time, I had 0 days experience as a dean. I had 9 years experience as a teacher in the classroom. But it was always a challenge to support highly effective teaching in the classroom and to promote student outcomes in the classroom. I've always had supportive administrators who would do their best. Jumping into that role, I kind of, my education started. I listened a lot, right? I practiced a lot. I learned a lot, and we're still doing that. So thank you for initiating the process. What I'd like to do is introduce the glossary of terms. There are 51 terms. I don't want to read them all unless you would like to. But if we have any questions, we can scroll through those. You guys have your packets. Do you have the packets with the terms? Okay.
That's not here.
We have the PowerPoint. We have the PowerPoint.
Okay,
ahead.
all right. Well, we have all things related to discipline are available in this PowerPoint, and we can give this to you.
Can you email it to us?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely, sure can. We have specific terms related to how the administrators take action, some policy items, but there are also definitions in terms of offenses in there. I'd like to draw your attention, Mr. Ron, will you please go to behavior levels? Behavior levels. As we segue into the matrix, and I'll provide these terms to you, I'll email these to you guys this evening. We have behavior levels that range from level 1 behaviors. So if you go back up to behavior levels, there's a definition of those terms, please, within the glossary. Thank you. Behavior levels escalate in severity from a level 1 to a level 4. In the past, at the elementary school, we had level 1 to level 5, 5 being the most severe, 1 being typically like a classroom disruption. Level 1 behaviors disrupt the orderly operation of the classroom, school functions, extracurricular, co-curricular programs, or approved transportation. And then we escalate to level 2. Level 2 behaviors are more serious than level 1 because they significantly interfere with learning and or the well-being of others. Level 3 behaviors are more serious acts that disrupt the orderly operation of the classroom, school function, and or extracurricular activities. And level 4 behaviors are the most serious acts of unacceptable behavior. And these are what we classify as SESR. Ron, can you go down to SESR, please? I've got that defined down here. If we're not familiar with SESRs. SESR stands for the School Environmental Safety Incident Reporting System. And there are 26 offenses that range from aggravated battery to weapons possession. And all these are SESRs. If this occurs, we have to notify law enforcement. And typically, this results in a hearing for expulsion. Okay. I'm introducing that to you, the behavior levels as well as the SESR. So you can kind of see the continuum from level 1 offenses, those kind of offenses that crop up in the classroom with the students who are off task chronically in the classroom and have to be addressed repeatedly. The continuum escalates and intensifies to the level 4 SESR.
Question real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
The vandalism, $1,000, who said that?
Vandalism of $1,000 or more,
Who said that?
that's stipulated, that's defined by the state.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. This is all pulled off of the Florida Department of Education.
They're in
side.
statute? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a state statute. Thank you. That's a good question. So we can scroll down to the actual. We have some charts the visual matrix. And there it is, our discipline matrix. There we go. So we have level 1, 2, 3, and 4. I just wanted us to all be on the same page as we talked about levels. And we can see we have 2 pages for these offenses. They'll be available in this resource bundle as well when we send it out to you.
So that's just
Do
a
you-
continuation. That's not.
Yes,
two
ma'am, that
different
is. That's a
charts. Okay.
continuation.
Do you have a strike-through version?
Where, like a contrast for
Mhm.
the prior? No,
Right.
ma'am, I do not.
The previous matrix is still up on the website, so we still got access to review it when we get this document.
What was helpful is that the deans went through, we eliminated terms and defenses that none of us used. They were extraneous. They were just unnecessary. We pulled them out. We removed those. We simplified that. And we simplified the plan to, we have a K-12 plan. Mr. Ron, will you scroll down to the consequence chart? It's actually the last one. So if you scroll up, sorry. Yep. Keep going. There we go, right there. So you can see the offense level as well as the offense occurrence.
So now with this chart, is this K-12 or this
This is
K-5?
K-12, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in the past where it would be K-5 and then we would have one for middle and high school, that's not going
Yes,
to be
ma'am.
the same with this matrix?
That's correct. So this is scalable to the school site. So for example, if we have a student in first grade who is off task in the classroom chronically, we have a menu of restorative actions that we're going to go through in just a moment. It's scalable per the age, per the stage, and per the site. But for the sake of the team pulling together and us having kind of a cultural language, a universal language from within our district, we came up with one K-12.
Okay, so when you said
consequence
based
plan.
off the stage, what you mean by
The
that?
stage of, like, the stage of life, like an elementary school kid
Oh, okay.
versus a high school kid, a
Okay,
second grader
okay.
versus an 11th grader.
Okay, all right.
Question?
Yes,
So for the 10 days expulsion out of school, are they allowed to do makeup work during their
Yes,
expulsion time
Yes,
still? I know they are now, but any changes in that?
no, ma'am.
Still, okay.
That's an excused absence, and they're allowed to make up work. That's a good question. All right, so if we're going to scroll down now to the consequence and response, and Ms.
And
Gray
this
can
is,
take that.
yeah, this is where we worked, I felt like really, we put a lot of focus here trying to find different corrective strategies, consequences to the behaviors that each dean at the school site could choose from. So like a kindergartner using profanity is much different than an 8th grader using profanity. But it's set up so that Ms. Williams at the primary school can find, we can still track that behavior is happening, but she can find a corrective strategy that would be more appropriate for her level versus our level at the middle school. And then, so each level is also broken down. That is weird. These are your level 1 behaviors, and it goes through your corrective strategies. And then we do it for each one of our categories. How do you do that? And then level 2, your level 2 behaviors, your corrective strategies. And we have, like I said, 4 levels. It just continues with level 3 and 4 being more major offenses. And each looks different. Obviously, more severe consequences.
So are these level 4s or something?
Yes, ma'am.
Those are level
Okay.
4 behaviors.
All right. Now that will be identified in the matrix, right?
Yes.
They are-
Okay.
they
Oh,
are
okay, I
there.
Yes,
see it
ma'am,
now.
is.
Okay.
I think my biggest problem with the district matrix is consistency with everyone following.
We agree.
Mhm.
So when I'm looking at it, I'm wondering how subjective it is. Are people going to be able to look at it and find consistency in the plan?
Well, that's why we went in and defined everything clearly, and we used definitions from DOE. We pulled from another school district. We used our former discipline matrix for those definitions, and created it so that we all feel like we could in those discussions.
So you thought about it when you were making it the consistency issue and you feel like this will give us a more consistent?
Correct. Well, that was the whole purpose. of
Cross-
it.
Yes,
ma'am.
yes, that's good news.
That's it.
That was the
I thank
focus.
y'all
The
for that.
conversation among the deans also is helpful because we're aware that we have to implement the plan and we have to do it with fidelity from
Right.
school site to school site.
Can you give an example, like disrespect, for example, that somebody might write up? Why is that different? Like some teachers would say it's disrespect, someone else might say it was a failure to follow rules. I think I'm answering my own question. But like where one teacher might write something that a student did up as disrespect, another one might say it's failure to follow rules. So when y'all define that, I think that you're going back to that teacher being able to see, looking back at that definition, was that really disrespect or was that failure to follow? Like you're defining that for them. You're
Correct.
trying to take away that gray area.
Well, part of my plan is to provide a Cliff Notes version of this for the teachers. So I'm going to take we have what we call at the elementary school, the Big 10. And these are the Big 10 that typically occur statistically in the classroom. And so I'm going to take definitions of our Big 10 and provide those to the teachers so that if there's a question of, is it disrespect or defiance? That's a question I ask a lot as a teacher. Which is that? And how do I consequence this? We'll have these defined. And we can have conversations with those teachers well based on a commonly held definition of the term.
No, there are multiple times that we've had referrals that we'll call the teacher before we even talk to the student, or we're talking to the student to clarify what it, if it is categorized correctly, so that the consequences still.
On the dress code, that is one of the biggest problems we've had in the past, is that's not consistent all the way through. And you can't make it consistent all the way through because what a little 5-year-old or 6-year-old has on, if a senior has the same thing on, then you got problems. But, you see what I'm saying?
We don't disagree. So the dress code will be K2 and 312. None of us really had a problem with a second grader wearing a tank top, that our 8th graders can't wear tank tops.
We have a section on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do. So it's just, that's one of the things we've had in the past, in implementing that at
Well,
each
implementing it,
each site.
even when we've had one, hasn't been done correctly at each school site,
At
even
each
though it's
site
been
had-
there.
yeah.
Yeah, so we had those conversations and the importance of those conversations. We've had issues at the middle school where they'll come in and they're wearing leggings with a short top because they got away with it. Jerry wasn't there, it wasn't him, and at the elementary school. And then parents get upset, kids get upset because they've always been allowed to do it, and now all of a sudden they can't. So we had those discussions and we're all on the same page. Our principals all agree. I think we're good to go day one.
The dress code,
So,
sorry.
Go ahead.
The dress code, question is somewhat subjective. It's contextual. I mean, a little first grader wearing a sleeveless shirt is one thing. A high school student doing that is another. So the first line of this, the purpose of the dress code is to encourage students to focus on the learning process without the distractions of unsuitable dress and grooming. That's key. So this is contextual. And how we implement that again as deans in conversation is very important. So that's a good question.
We've also discussed this year, having the deans come together regularly, because that's not something we've done.
That's a
And
good
look at our
idea.
data. We've brought our administrators together ever so often or whatever. But we've talked about this year, taking some time and letting our deans come over for like a morning, maybe once a month, and get together and let's all look at our data. Because that time of them sitting in the room, I felt like was invaluable. They don't ever have time to talk to each other.
Right.
I mean, they're just all busy putting out their own fire, so to speak. So that is something and having them come and look at their data and problem solve together. They go back and share that with their administrator. That's only going to help those discipline issues, resolve faster. I mean, because we do have, I've shared this before. Look at our focus matrix. Our discipline data our referrals are down 36%, I think. I think the end of 36. I thought it was 40, but it's 36% that we've gone down. But we still have kids showing up with the more aggressive behaviors. You know what I mean? So even though overall it may be down, and that's because they've done some things with those level, I don't know what you call them, level 1A or, 2A. But so even though that's dropping, it's because the teachers are doing more. It's because the deans are doing more. They're doing more of the restorative practices. They're doing more. And that's okay. What's not okay is for those kids who are continuing to show extreme behaviors. That's where we've got to focus on. And that's why we think if we get together, maybe once a month, and we're making sure that we're meeting as a team and that we have mental health in there, we can make sure that those services are provided to those students and that those particular students aren't continuing to disrupt the learning for the other 18 kids or whatever who are not having that issue. But we're not trying to kick them out. We're just trying to make sure that they have the services that they need. So it's really just a coming together.
I
Something
think,
that we've considered as we've had these conversations is, we're trying to support teachers so that they may teach in a way that they are highly effective in their classrooms, so they can promote student outcomes in the classrooms. And we see evidence of high level learning. It comes down to the question of the student's well-being. That really is the trump card. What is best for the students and what is going to support and nurture the child? We're not here to punish them. Discipline, from my background, comes from the word disciple, which means to train, to teach. And so as a dean, it's different. Part of my job is to teach, to train these children, to have conversations and to build relationships with them and with the teachers and with the families to support the training of the student, to come to a place where they understand that behavior is not appropriate for the classroom. It's not helpful for them. It's not in their best interest or in the class's best interest, and to adjust and to learn and to have those kind of conversations with the teachers. So that's been at the forefront of these conversations as well. What's best for the student? And if we are all doing that from school site to school site and having that same mindset and having a common language, commonly held definitions, that's going to support the process. In time, I think that we'll see the changes. A lot of this we were already doing, and now we're just
United
self-consciously doing this with accountability.
Well, you have a united front, and a child can wiggle through all the other, places where they know they can get by. But if that front is united, then they know they're going to walk into a wall and they're going to have to say, I got to do what they say do, finally,
I think the hardest thing for a teacher is to send a student that they're having a discipline problem with to the front office. And then before they even finish teaching that class, the student's back disrupting the class again. So anything we can do to relieve the teachers from having to go through that yo-yo that's built into this would be wonderful. So have y'all thought about those?
And to support the teachers
Right.
with strategies and technique to walk with those children
Yes.
so that they can have that equity and that influence with the child to see them change as well.
See them walk with the student? You mean to the front if they
No.
I mean it figuratively.
don't leave their
to
class?
support them. Yeah.
We're gonna call an aide and
Well, in other words, I think what he's trying to say is teach the teacher how to cope with the child to get the child to do what they want them to do.
But do they
And-
have time to do that while they're teaching the other students? I mean, we
Well,
want them to be highly effective, but do we
that's where the
also want them to
dean
be
comes in
disciplined?
to help
Still
with
got to
that.
give them
Not in the
tools
moment.
to work with.
No.
Absolutely not in the moment. When in the heat of the moment, when things are going down, it's the teaching comes later. But there's also front end teaching. Like Ms. Pomple, Mr. Finley gives an opportunity in pre-planning. We're going to do lots of conversations and classroom visits and things like that to support the teachers. But we send out resources. We have a flow chart for our campus that we use, discipline flow chart developed last year, submitted to the teachers. At what point do I write a referral? That's the question, at what point? So we have a flow chart. Not yet. If you're here and this has happened, not yet. Keep going.
So I got a couple of questions.
Yes, ma'am.
My first question is, are y'all pretty much through with what you guys were showing us, or was there more?
That's pretty much it.
Okay, so I guess I'm just wondering, how this one actually, compared to the last one we had. I know the last one that we had, like I say, it covered K-12, and then it also had our technical school in there. So would this new document include all of K-12 and Big Bend Technical, or is it just
But he
K-12?
submitted something different that's outside of, she did submit something for us in there, but it's not the same.
Okay, but will it be housed in this document? Okay, so,
With this, before you lose
Okay.
that train of thought, with this and Big Bend Technical, this will be for the dual enrollment students, not the adult students.
okay, but I think Jody does still have something for her adult students, it's
And I
just
think it
not
might
housed
just
in
be
this.
something that I can't
Yeah,
remember.
I think she
It might be
does.
just something simple. It
Yeah.
wasn't what could be-
And in regards to like, this does seem a little more reader friendly. I'm gonna go ahead and compliment you guys on that. But I'm still just, wondering how reader friendly this is gonna be in regards to, like you say, all of us that have to use it, far as our parents, our students, and the teachers. And then how does this align with our new policy? Because I know we addressed some things in regards to the phones. So is this new matrix aligning to what our new policy is in regards to the phones and
This was just.
technology?
Yes, ma'am. It just,
Okay.
it's the same thing saying that they can't have it except for non-instructional time. It is. They looked at that. I showed them, I gave them that policy when they were working on it.
Okay. And how aware are our, I guess, instructional and administration with this new policy? What awareness do they have other than what we're presenting tonight?
I present it to instructional when they come back because we're not in session right now. So they won't get it until they come back the first day of school.
Okay. But the plan is that we will have this advertised?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We'll have the copy for y'all that we're going to advertise by the next board meeting.
Okay.
I'm gonna have it to y'all before then, in your
Okay.
packet.
Which is next week.
Yes, ma'am. Next Thursday.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Great job.
Y'all, thank you
Oh, can I ask one more question? And it's just my curiosity. Jimmy, how much discipline do you deal with down at your school? No, I'm really curious.
You what?
Given our size.
Okay.
But even percentage-wise, maybe a little bit less. And got a small school, it's easier to build the relationships and all within that, both with the parent and with the child. So that's helpful. But trust me, we've got some that can give you a run for your money.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I was just
And you are
curious
de-
because I
you
know
are
you
the
guys.
dean, of discipline too, the
Yeah.
principal and the dean and guidance and, yeah. So,
All right, okay. Well, thank you for the presentations tonight, the two workshops that we've had, and now we'll move down to the items of interest by the public. Do we have anyone tonight that would like to address the board on any issues that is not on the agenda? All right, if not, we move on. The consent items on the agenda were approved by the adoption of the agenda. And we move down now to item 12.05, appointment of administrative personnel, appointment of Verone Murray to be Taylor County Middle School Assistant Principal, position number 012173302, 8 hours, 12 months, effective July the 24th.
motion?
Yeah, Breon.
Breon, okay, I'm sorry.
You're Breon?
Yes.
Hey, honey, I'm Jeannie, Brenda, Danny,
I'm-
Deidre, Bonnie Sue. Nice to meet you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we hadn't voted yet.
I was about to say, we
You
got
gon- you
signs
got a
in front of
reason to
us.
say no.
I mean,
You better have a good reason if you're gonna say no.
We done been in here a good hour. We got our names in front
I
of
need a
us.
motion.
Motion.
All right, Ms. Agner makes the motion, Ms. Mathis seconds it. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, anybody opposed?
Congratulations, for real, Miss. Thank you.
Okay. Now this brings us down to item 12.13, establishment of 4 clinic aid positions, 7.5 hours, 10 month, assigned to the Taylor County Elementary School, Taylor County High School, Steinhatchee School, and Taylor County Primary School / floater. All right, Ms. Carlton makes that motion.
I second.
All right, Ms. Mathis seconds it. Any discussion?
Yes.
What does the floater mean?
Like if someone were to be absent, that person's going to be at primary school the majority of the time because they have more medication. But however, if someone at the elementary school, like if they were needed at another school, they would go to that school.
Okay, so they'll be at the primary school primarily, but
Mostly, yes,
utilize
ma'am.
as a floater.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
My
Yeah.
question is the qualifications for these.
Had to have a CNA.
CNA
Yes,
at
ma'am.
least, okay.
So the qualifications pretty much align with what DOH always required? Okay.
There's still going to be the RN that's training and.
Yes, ma'am. The RN will still be employed by the Department of Health,
Right.
as well as they have they call it a health
Health,
something aid. I'm sorry, I can't, something that will also help with like the care, the administration of medication and like the care plans and things like that. But the RN is the one who will be over these aides.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion?
I am worried about the ones that are currently in those positions, being able to keep them if they, do we have any consideration for because we currently have aides in these positions under the health department. Some of those aides wish to apply for their job through the school district.
And I hope they do.
I also hope they do.
So the only way that, yes, and it's a horrible situation. But they weren't previously, though, they were not our employees. They were Department of Health's employees.
Right.
So when Department of Health came and presented and they told us that they were cutting that grant and all that, and we decided to take this on, I can't say for certain, that they would get it, but those that were already in those positions, Ms. Jeannie, are the ones who have the qualifications.
Right.
So,
And the experience.
and the experience, yes, ma'am. So I can't,
but when we advertise, it's open to the public. So we know that this has been a conversation for a couple of months now. And I think that, DOH did give those employees enough notice in regards to, how this change was going to come about. And we ourselves as a district has, said that, if we went this route, because we workshopped it and we've discussed it, we said that those positions would be advertised. So I'm hopeful that those applicants would be applying, but again, once we advertise, we have to properly vet, so.
And Kiki will be doing the interviewing, or who?
no.
Principals will do it for the aides, okay.
Okay. All righty, motion's been made, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. Item 12.19, change in hours, days for position, clinic aid position 012161104, Teller County Middle School, change from 7 hours, 9 months to 7.5 hour, 10 months.
So we're trying to make this consistent. So that's why we're asking for the change, because prior to us having, when the Department of Health oversaw all this, this was one of our employees. However, one of the things that we discovered when we all sat down was Ms. Roberts and some other principals said, we need them before school starts, because that's when a lot of medication's given. So we need them to be consistent. We need all of them to have the 7.5 hours versus the 7. So that's why we're changing that one, just to be in line with all the other positions.
So why we're not changing the one also at the primary school?
She was already 7.5 hours.
Oh, okay. All right.
So make them all the same.
I second that.
All right, motion's been made and second. All right, any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. All right, item 15.1 was pulled before at the adoption of the agenda. This brings us down to item 16.01, the approval of tentative budget advertising purposes. The first is approval of tentative millage rate for advertising purposes, and come on down.
Got to put my eyeballs on this time, though.
Kind of small print.
It is.
Do we?
So, well, good news is, thanks to many hours and
I
many
didn't print
weekends
my
with Ashley,
copy.
the budget is balanced and we are doing good. So, the millage rate for this year total is 5.592. The required local effort did go down 0.115, but we are still sitting pretty close to last year's, 0.1% difference between last year's budget and this year's budget. So we're still looking good. We're rocking and rolling. So let's look at the revenues. So overall, we'll start with general fund. Between federal, state, and local sources, we're looking at bringing in a
They
projected
emailed it, and I didn't
29.
print it.
We just didn't get a copy.
It's
We've got it,
emailed, but I
we-
forgot to print my
I forgot to
copy.
print mine.
I can make copies real quick.
I think, do we have it on the
Okay.
screen,
I've
Ron?
I've looked at it, so I'm
No.
not good.
Who else
Okay.
needs a copy? I'll be
I do. I looked at it, but I wanted to look at it while she
glad.
discussed.
Maybe he can put it up there.
Yeah.
It's just good to look at it.
Oh,
while
yeah,
you're
for
talking.
sure.
So while she's doing that, let's talk about the millage, because that's the first item.
Yes, ma'am.
So we actually need to take action on that, right?
On the advertising?
Well,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
We gotta
we
approve
have
the
it for-
Do
millage.
you have any other questions on
It's on the millage.
the millage? We will not have to advertise for an increase.
It will not increase as far as the public asking for more
It's
money.
a little bit less than last year.
0.115 less for required local effort.
Okay, so we need a motion. Ms. Carlton makes a motion that we approve the tentative millage
Second.
rate. Do we have a second? Ms. Donnell seconds it, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. Now we get down to the budget.
Okay. Do you want me to wait for you to get your copies, or are you okay?
You good, go ahead.
Okay.
You got it on the screen now, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, so for general fund, between federal, state, and local sources.
Hang on just a second till
Okay.
we get our cheat sheet here.
Okay.
So you gotta-
Don't get Danny
As
one.
much as I mean-
He got it right behind him.
I don't have eyes in the back of my head.
Thank you, Kiki, I got it.
I got it.
Might as well look at the thing.
Okay, Lacey.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And I still can't see it, Angela.
So
Don't
general
read yours.
fund for federal, state, and local sources, 29,429,765. The transfer in of $600,000 is from capital outlay for property and
I
casualty
see it now.
insurance and maintenance, which is allowed. Our fund balance from the previous year, $5,037,880, which brings our total revenue for the general fund to $35,067,645. For special revenue, we're looking at between state and local sources, $7,296,076, bringing in a fund balance from last year, $517,058, bringing that total to $7,813,134. For capital outlay, $3,538,855 total between state and local sources. $1,658,517 for a previous year fund balance coming in, which brings that grand total to $5,197,372. And then our enterprise fund, which is self-insurance, we're looking at $3,696,804, bringing in a fund balance of $1,608,439 for a grand total of $5,305,243. So total across all funds, $53,383,394, including fund balance from previous year.
All these deductibles that we're facing, and I know we're still waiting, but on that special revenue and that capital project, can some of that money be used for deductibles?
No, I say no. I'd say no.
I wouldn't think so.
No. Okay, just curious. Now, on the millage, the
Wait a minute, quick question, Bunny.
intersection.
If Lacey, if you don't mind, Ashley, why it can't be used? Because I mean, when the guy was here, he did suggest that we would start looking at some of our capital outlay funds, so why we couldn't? So we currently don't have them. Okay, so that would be why.
This is
Okay,
projected.
okay, all right.
All we've got left is 1,658,000 from last year, right? That's a transfer in.
The district will not receive those funds
Mhm.
until start coming until December.
Okay, all right.
We had put a halt on our 5-year projects that we had before the hurricane. We had asked for us to put a halt on some of those. Do we see where we stand we're not going forward like we got all this money to spend is what I'm trying to
Or,
say.
I mean, we don't have anything big that's coming other than basic repairs, like we have to have new HVACs. There's things that we
Yeah,
can't put out.
that, but we did have some 5-year projects like redoing the tennis court or redoing the track and those kind of things. We've put a hold on that kind of stuff.
We have not put a hold on everything, no.
Just notated for discussion.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, I don't recall you asking that.
Yeah, we talked about that right after the hurricane. Talked with Dan, was in the audience. You'd have to probably go back and look it up, but we had that discussion. But to be cautious going forward on our 5-year plan,
To be cautious, yes.
to not just,
I don't
act
think,
like we still got the money when we.
I don't think we're,
But I do know that, like, there has been conversation with
Mhm.
the closure of the mill and the
Mhm.
loss in revenue.
Mhm.
Like, the 5-year plan has definitely been adjusted.
like, we're not trying to, at one point, we wanted to make another soccer field. Like, we're not doing things like that. I think that's what you're asking.
Yes.
And I think we're
yes,
saying the same thing. Yes,
I
ma'am.
mean, I know there's,
On the 5-year plan.
well, we had a 5-year plan and we had some
Soccer field,
things
I'm
in
thinking
there
of
that
that.
we really wanted to do that we don't need to do now is what basically is the conversation we had until we see where we are. I know it wasn't a heated conversation. It was a light conversation.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't ingrained in your brain, but we did have it.
Okay, so moving on to expenditures. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Ms. Bonnie, so
Go
are you
ahead.
finishing up? For general fund, we're looking at total expenditures or appropriations of 31,321,356. So we will be deficit spending because our fund balance will be dropping down to around 3,746,289 in general fund.
Hmm.
But our percentage that you told me today was okay.
And then special revenue expenditures, total appropriations and expenditures, 7,602,403. Also deficit spending there. Dropping the fund balance down to 210,731. Capital projects, total appropriations and expenditures, 3,346,694. So that is also dropping as well. Fund balance, 1,250,678. And then our self-insurance is actually going up. So our total appropriations expenditures, 3,192,893. So we're looking at that fund balance should increase slightly, but those claims are estimated. We can't guarantee what that's going to be. So that's our best projection,
Right.
which would end us with 2,112,350.
Well, you got the 600 transferring out. What that mean? Why is it 600?
That's from capital outlay to general fund for the property and casual insurance and maintenance.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's
And-
typical. That's what we're allowed to
Right,
do.
right.
It's pretty typical.
And then just to be conservative on the capital outlay on the next page, we have cut the motor vehicle purchases down to one school bus. Instead, it has been being more, so we cut that back.
And of course, we also used our grant to buy some, so that
Right.
took that,
How many were we getting with the
pressure off
grant?
that. I can't remember. I
Oh,
think
it's
it's,
3?
I think it's might be 4. I can't remember. I kind of think it's either, I don't know. I'd have to go back to Jill's grant. It's several. And so that kind of takes it off. Luckily, we had that grant to help offset the purchase of the school buses. Because, as we've been told before, when we built the new school, when we built Perry Primary and we put those bus purchases off. I mean, I remember when I first took over.
We were in bad shape,
Yeah, I remember you
very
telling
bad
me about
shape.
that bus at St. Hatchie. I remember Miss Jenny.
That's right, it was bad.
So, you know what I mean? It did. It kept on breaking down. So we went back to that, but now we've caught up some. And then with that grant, we're going to be okay on school bus purchases. So thank God. that
Yeah.
that was
And we
there.
still have 2 that are on lease as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
Do we intend to maintain those leases, or is the hope that someday we don't have leased school buses?
And the funds that we receive for selling the buses
Lease
goes back
purchase.
Lease to
in
purchase,
to the purchase
actually?
of buses.
So that will end at some
We
point,
sell
right?
the buses, the scrap buses.
How long do we
the
have
ones that
left on those?
That goes back into the purchase fund.
Yes, ma'am.
This might be the last year.
That we had for ours.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We did that during special facilities because we didn't have the money to outright buy the buses,
Mhm.
and they said we got it. And so we did a lease.
Right.
I don't know what we'd have done if we hadn't have done that, you know it? Because it was, I mean, it was
But they got
bad.
to get ready because.
It sure is.
1/3, is that our projection?
Yes.
I think when I met with the tax collector, she said 1.5 million if the, is that what it's going to end up at?
Capital outlay budget's gonna go
That would be in 25, 26.
worst case 25, 26. I mean, it might not be the whole 1/3, but I would plan 25, 26 to be.
Yeah.
Bad for capital.
Let's pray something big happens in 24, 25.
We need some industry to come in.
Okay, all righty. Any other questions?
Are we good with what we're supposed to advertise in the paper and making sure it's done correctly this time? Okay, we good this time. Okay.
All right. Okay,
I make a motion.
That's what I'm saying.
Did you dot every I and cross every T?
okay. All right, Ms. Agner makes a motion that we approve the advertising for our tentative budget. Ms. Carlton, you second that. Any other discussion?
Do we know what the, FTE count was at the end of, 23, 25? I meant 24.
Yes, ma'am. So we're sitting around 25, 21.
Okay,
That's pretty decent.
that's steady dropping.
That's good. That's good. That's very good, isn't it?
Yeah.
What
It's
were you at
dropped,
last year?
though.
We're kind of holding steady right now.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I was expecting to.
Gotta wait till the kids show up.
Right.
Ah.
It's 26
There's still
at one
enrollment.
time.
Actually,
going on.
don't you have somewhere to be? Just kidding.
All right, we have,
Miss Voice of Reason.
we have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Lacey.
Anybody opposed?
Thank you,
So carried.
Lacey.
Thank you. This brings us down to the items of interest by the superintendent and board. Ms. Bashir, do you have something tonight?
I do. So after the Great Goat Massacre of this year, we've been going back and forth with the city about our animals, about our FFA. Probably about 30 minutes maybe before this meeting began, I received a letter from the Department of Agriculture addressed to the city manager, John Hart, where they are trying to basically advocate for us, and they agree with the things that I've previously shared with them through the Department of Education, as well as Mr. Murphy. Billy Murphy has also been a huge help in advocating on the Department of Agriculture side. Both entities agreed that this should not be an issue. However, I am receiving text updates by the second, because they also are in a meeting right now, that they don't agree with what the Commissioner of Agriculture is saying, nor do they agree with what the Department of Education is saying, which is that the statute that we provided supersedes the local regulations. And I'm not an attorney, so I'm looking at Angela. I'm not an attorney. So that's not for me to decide, but I'm just telling you where we're at. So it's become a bit, I don't want to say a standoff, but but I'm understanding it's a little tense right now because they're not in agreement with what the
Right.
Department of Agriculture and the Department of Education has provided them.
They being,
County Commissioner.
The
No,
city,
the city.
The city council.
Not,
So we will have to follow that, Mr. Lundy. We have appealed to them. I've been appealing for months to them. And got little movement when Mr. Murphy got involved. Some things started.
Who is Mr. Murphy, if you don't
Billy
mind?
Murphy, he's one of the FFA,
Bureau,
in Farm Bureau. He helps with our ag program. He's just a,
So can I ask a question? Because I'm aware that we had the incident, but I guess I really wasn't aware about the interest of the au pair primary until I seen it in the newspaper. So I'm aware that they have been going before the city, and I understand that there is, like you say, council concern and community concern. So if everything works out, what is the plan in regards to the primary area? But if that is not an option due to ordinance or whatever, what other options have FFA discussed?
So so a couple of things. So we've received a grant. We've received a grant through, I'm trying to think what the name of it, we've received a CAP grant, and some of this was funded through Perkins for
Okay.
us to have a small barn, I don't know,
Okay.
outside of the high school to provide coverage for those smaller animals like their chickens and like the goats, so that they're not attacked again like they were previously, so we don't have another
Right.
massacre. And then over at the Old Perry Primary, they were just going to add on to that pole barn to be
Okay.
able to house the bigger animals such as the pigs, and I was told someone may donate a cow to us.
Okay.
And so the concern grew, my understanding is, Jamie Cruz came and approached us whenever this happened and told us that we were out of compliance, that the local ordinance said that we were not allowed to have animals, even though we're a school, in city limits. So that's where this kind of all began. Whenever the thing happened with the goats, it brought it to his attention. He informed Ms. McCoy and myself. I then went to City Manager Hart and asked him, we actually spoke at a board meeting with the Chamber of Commerce. I approached him and said, Jamie Cruz let us know that this was an issue and that we were violating an ordinance. Tell me what we need to do to get this in compliance. He told me he would look into it, and he didn't think it would be a big deal. If anything, we would just have to ask for an exception, and that wouldn't be a problem. That was the end of it. Didn't come back to that, and partly I'll take responsibility for that, but there was no movement on them either. And so this has continued to grow. I don't know who's stoking the fires, but the fires have been stoked, and we've tried to find out what the difference is. We were provided the statute. I was provided a statute, given a statute by the Department of Education to share with the city manager, which I did. Mr. Murphy went straight to the Department of Agriculture because he's a local citrus grower. And as I said, he's he's like an FFA sponsor alumni, kind of helps him. He also took it upon himself, reaching out, trying to help. He's one of our partners, to talk to the Department of Agriculture, who also gave him the same statute. I shared that statute with City Manager Hart a while back and said, what I've been told is this covers everything, and this supersedes what they call home rule. And Angela, please tell me if I'm saying any of this wrong. But home rule was established, I think maybe like in the 1800s. It was passed in the 60s. Basically, what home rule does is allows local governments to come up with ordinances and things to help keep their city government in check, so that things don't go wild and they don't have to have the state's approval.
Mhm.
I think where the conflict is that it is the opinion of, when I say we, the opinions that I've received from the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Education, that home rule cannot supersede state law.
Okay.
And so the city does not agree with that.
Okay.
So we're kind of at a standstill right now. I don't know what will happen tonight in this meeting because I'm not there. But I do know that Wilton Simpson, who is the department, who is the Agriculture Commission,
Right.
sent a letter to Mr. Hart. That's what I received, like I said, literally right
Okay.
before I walked in here, and that the city manager applied very quickly to her. And so I think that's going to be I think this may be something that they're going to work out.
Okay.
Her question was,
Okay.
what's our alternative?
Say that again?
Her question was.
Yeah, what would
what's
be
our
our
plan B?
alternative if, the county doesn't, if statute don't override city?
In Technical College? It's outside the city.
Um, Right. It's not that we couldn't, but the problem there is, so we're going to bus those kids every day. You got a 50-minute class, so I'm going to bus them out there. And what are they going to get in 30 minutes? 28 minutes. Like, that's the issue. It's not that it can't be done. It is that the best interest of our students and their education? And the answer is no.
I wonder how Madison gets by it.
Well,
They're out of city limits,
it's
is
a
my
matter of
understanding.
a different opinion, and our alternative is to depend upon the state to help us get this thing
Okay.
straight.
We have.
Right, Ms. Ball?
Yes, and just, Mr. Lundy and I spoke about this issue early this morning. I spoke to Mr. Murphy. I knew that we had had a meeting maybe a couple months ago about the fact that there were these funds available and an intention to try and get permitted to build this structure, barn, whatever we're going to call it. So I think that's what set this into motion. And my comments back then were, well, you know, you can, with the land development regulations, seek a special exception, a variance, and then I've even heard the term text amendment bandied about to actually amend the LDRs.
Yeah.
So, you know, which vehicle is necessary or appropriate is something I can't render an opinion on today. But I did commit to Mr. Murphy and to Mr. Lundy that I would follow up with all the players and try to reach some consensus.
Don't the LDRs fall up under the county though?
There's land development regulations for the county, and then the city also has their
Okay.
own. And there is, you know, comprehensive planning, and I believe the city uses the North Florida Regional Planning
Right.
Council to help with that. I represent the town of Mayo, and we have similar issues. But when you get into zoning, you know, you do have to follow the local regulations.
Right.
The statute you referenced might give a vehicle to ask for the special exception or the variance or so forth. Spot zoning is typically not favored, but those are things that we might use the LDRs in conjunction with the statute to go to the city. But I believe that's going to be the method. I don't think you
Yeah.
can just have this Mexican standoff and say, well, we've got a letter that says, somebody else says we're right, and they have something else. I think we need to collaboratively work on this. And,
Mhm.
And we have,
Yeah.
so Mr. Hart has said something to me and I've said, thank you for your help. You know, we want to do this, but, then his response to the, agriculture office today was, this would have been fixed already if the school had submitted a text change amendment to the land development regulations. I approached Mr. Hart several months ago. I asked him what I needed to do and he never once
well,
provided any assistance.
I
He
can-
about didn't know. So we do,
Right, but he
from
shouldn't
my
have said that.
understanding, we do need to, like Angela say, the LDR seem like that would give us.
Right, and
More.
there's been some proposals to amend the land development regulations, which is easier than the text amendments. So all that to say, I think we all need to put our heads together and
Absolutely.
figure out, you know, if the LDRs have to be amended and the city is willing to do that, they will involve the North Florida Regional Planning Council because they develop the comp plans. It's a very, you know, it's talking about development in the whole county. Is that what that
And,
is?
and I think, to be clear, like you said, we're not trying to have a Mexican standoff. This is a lot of people outside of us advocating for us. And the comment that was made about, like, it could have already been done if we would have done something, I reached out months ago. So this comment that's been made by him is incorrect.
Right.
Because that wasn't ever, like, I met with him in person.
Well,
So
and again, I
think we
didn't
are
have
trying to work with
I didn't
him.
have a lot of time to devote to this today, but I did follow it up with what Mr. Lundy asked me to do, and I will put this on the front burner so that we can get this moving. And if a text amendment needs to be initiated, that needs to be done promptly because I think that these funds are going to, you know, expire at some point, which I don't know. So there's a lot of information. I
Absolutely.
think if we just all sit down and understand where we need to go and how to get there, we can accomplish it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Hopefully we'll have an update by next meeting.
Yeah, I just, let me
Yeah,
just
we
say
do.
this on this issue. You know, in my old looking at things, in our day and time, it gets less and less to find some good, wholesome construction type avenues for our young people to participate in. And, you know, FFA, Future Farmers of America, is a very good outlet. And it's wholesome. In fact, tonight, if you haven't already eaten, when you go to eat your dinner or whatever, thank a farmer for the food that's on the table. And so, you know, we're just laying this out as an encouragement to our kids and participation. So however this thing has developed and how we found ourselves at odds, we need to come together. We need to, and I would
think
hope
we're at
that we could
odds.
resolve this because school is starting back. We have funds to build the buildings. Our kids are coming back. They're ready to, and actually, you know, it won't be long till they'll be showcasing some of the animals and so forth at the fall fairs. You know, all that's in a limbo right now. So we do need to move forward on this if we can.
Absolutely. Maybe our students can take a lesson from
Okay.
this about, you know, when you have something and different entities disagree, how do we come to the table and make sure that we're all, because I think we're all want the same thing.
Yeah,
I think the city wants
mean,
the
it's
same
just-
thing as we do,
it's
which
just-
is to let these students have
Not throwing stones at each other.
have
It's
this
just-
opportunity.
Yeah.
I think that that's the bigger picture. And I think that this has gotten mixed up with others trying to help, and it's been pushed back on the school board, and that hasn't been the case.
Yeah.
We've only asked for a help.
Okay.
As Bunny has suggested, can we get updated on this at the next meeting so we can see where we at and make
Or
sure
if I
we stay
have-
on top
yes,
of?
Absolutely. If I have, you know, if there's any movement,
Well,
I'll
we
be
can
glad to
help
update you.
if you know, I don't want to get, you know, the pot, the more you stir it, the worse it does. But if you know, if there's something we can do as a board or anybody we can call or whatever, just let us
Okay.
know.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, and that's a
Absolutely.
good thought, but I think as far as, you know, people feeling as though you're circumventing and so on, I think we just need to
Be still.
address the people in
Issue.
charge. There is a procedure. If the procedure needs to be modified, that's where you get into these text amendments and those sorts of things.
That, yes. Worth it. And that may need to be Angela instead of, you know what I mean? I mean, we may let Angela speak for us. I don't know, but I do think it's been a lot of people trying to help, and it's caused this. Mexican standoff.
Okay. All right. Anything,
Probably shouldn't say, sorry.
anything else?
It's too late now. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Anything else on
I
your behalf?
apologize. No,
Miss Miss Ball, do you have anything?
No, and I don't have any goats behind my fence at my house either. Full disclosure, so. But I will follow up. My dance card's full tomorrow, but I'll get with you Thursday.
I'm in the county. If they need to bring them to me, I guess they could bring them to our house.
That's all I have.
No executive meeting, no nothing like that.
No, we're not at that point yet, but we will
Okay.
be soon.
All right, thank you. Miss Donnell,
Yes, I just want to thank Lacey tonight for each presentation. Again, I want to thank Ms. Bowen for coming before us. You know, anytime we're in a situation, you know, where we look like, you know, what we're gonna do, I think we all, you know, normally take that as a challenge, you know, to figure out what we can do and how we can, you know, do what we can to service our community and students in need. And we, you know, didn't bring school choice, but school choice was brought. And I think a lot of good come out of school choice. And so I just really challenge us as a district to see how, you know, we are going to move forward in regards to growing and making sure, you know, we do what we can in servicing those students in need, because, you know, we're the lead educational entity in this community. And I don't know, I would think everybody up here and in this room would like for us to always be the first and number one choice. And so I just want to leave that there. And like I say, I pray we don't leave this on the table in regards to, you know, what are we going to do in regards to growth and how we, you know, continue to look at that and making sure we take advantage of those platforms that have been put before us in regards to our representatives and making sure we're doing our due diligence and reaching out to them and addressing what we can. Same with this situation with FFA. We've got that program. We fought hard to get it. The kids are embracing it, community embracing it. So I do pray and hope we move forward, as, you know, Mr. Lundy has said, and making sure we're able to keep that venue and avenue there for our students and servicing them. And just, again, the summer is moving so fast. But again, this presentation tonight with the discipline matrix, it does look good. And I'm praying that, you know, it would do what we, you know, anticipated to do for this new school year. And I just look forward to us starting the new school year.
okay, thank you. Miss Agner.
On the matrix thing, y'all did an excellent job. Very organized, very easy to read, very streamlined. I want to read it now, and I want to get the email and I want to scrutinize it. And I need to know who to ask the questions to. Who would that be?
Your superintendent.
So who-
She'll answer.
Yes, yes. And so I just need to know, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm going to be asked those questions. I need to understand what they might, what they
We could
really
ask
are.
them in the next meeting too.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and I appreciate the hard work on that. I really do, because that's not an easy task to try to get that much thought into one thing for all schools.
And it was all of these.
Yeah.
Jeff, Lauren, Sherman, everyone, they just couldn't.
Okay, good.
Yes, where was Jeff?
Everybody trying to get their vacation in before it starts. And thank you, Lacey. You always do a great job. And Ms. Bone, I appreciate you coming. We're heartbroken over the results, but there's something to reach for the future. And I believe hopefully it'll be a doable thing. I can, there was a time when there was that many students down there, apparently. They built the school for it, so, who knows what the future holds. But let's just keep praying that 24, 25 will be what God would have it to be, and his will be done, and all the decisions that will be made for this community and for the students of this community. And that 25, 26 will not be the disaster that everybody's preparing us for it to be. Let's pray that it will just, God will just continue to have his hand on us and in this situation. And looking forward to a little bit more summertime before school starts. And thank y'all. And Ashley, good to see you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mathis.
It really is good to see you, Ashley. Lacey, and thank you very much. I'm thankful for the relationship that you two have, and that we have you back, and that we're in a place where we can do what we're doing tonight, having y'all both. It's wonderful. So, and it is good to see you. I'm sorry for my comment. I do have goats, so on a whole other subject.
She's in Stina, if they have such a thing.
Actually, I have them on the Dixie side. We try to do our hillbilly business on the Dixie side. That's where Mr. Bray and Chrissy live, hillbilly town. No, I'm just kidding. But thank y'all for being here too. And I think we're all a little disappointed about the sixth grade thing, but I do believe, and I will send a message tonight asking just some words of wisdom from Senator Latvala on how we would approach this and get his recommendations. I think that that's important. And he'll probably remember from back then the reasoning behind some of the wording on there. And I know I'm the one behind the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and I'm regretting that right now, that portion of the bill, but it's there. So if we could just strike through that line, we'd be in a better boat right now. But honestly, at the time, we were so worried about falling below even 28 students because we were losing students so rapidly. And then we were starting a new year with all our classes combined with each other, kindergarten, second, all those. I think we had 4 teachers in the whole school for that school year. So it was a rough time, but looking forward, I will definitely, and unless we have some other advice, I'll ask that question about, from him. And Carrie, thank you too for your part in this. I said that already, but I do. And thank y'all for the discipline matrix. I think we last updated it 6 years ago.
No, it ain't
longer
been
than
that long now. Don't make us look that
How long
bad.
ago?
It
Well,
has
we did a
not been
complete,
that long.
we did that big overhaul
Yeah,
on it. Like maybe we've
that
done
was back
minor
in
updates, but we did,
22. It was in 22.
not when we did that major overhaul, was it in 22?
No, that was like in 2017 or 18.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking about. We did a huge overhaul and we redid the dress code because we had uniforms, and so we went with all that. But thank y'all. And honestly, I think if we could just get a uniform way of looking at it where everyone feels like they're all on the same page and doing the same thing, and the students and parents and teachers all feel like it's fair among everyone, and that there's no partiality or, in it, and that would be wonderful. And I'm so glad that that's the main objective for doing this, because it is a problem. And so thank y'all.
All right,
And-
thank you, Mrs. Carlton.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for that.
Why?
It was done.
I'm through.
was funny.
Well, you said thank you. Excuse me. Let me take it back. Miss Mathis.
I'm through, thank you.
All right, Miss Carlton.
I'm sorry, that just wanted to,
Angela, you need to reel him in.
thanks for our operating budget.
You need to reel
and
him
all, that we
in.
can go ahead and advertise. It's always a good point to get that behind us. It's not, I mean, it's not the final vote yet, but I mean, to get ready for the next steps. The discussion on Steinhatchee was good. We just need to keep it in the forefront and
Yes,
work on that. And thanks on the discipline matrix. I think that's going to be very positive for us this year. I hope Steinhatchee can improve their discipline, right? Because it'll apply to you too, won't it? But I do appreciate all that. And of course, our next meeting is next week, the 30th, so.
This
we'll
is
be
true.
ready. So,
we don't have a meeting bite to bite.
Yeah, let's pray for the goats.
We still on the first,
Oh.
for the
Earning your
first.
money. You're earning your money. We're all earning our money.
Okay.
this
Yeah,
month.
As we close down
thank you,
this,
Superintendent
I
Bashir.
know.
as we close down this meeting, thank you for all the comments, for all the reports tonight, all the information that's been shared. And looking forward to another meeting next Tuesday night as we take care of other issues. Summer is near about gone, even though we don't think it, but it is as far as school is concerned. And let's just continue to try to work together and make the very best of the next year coming our way. So with that said, do I have a motion and second that we
Motion.
adjourn? All right, Ms.
Motion.
What?
Motion.
All right.
Motion, you said, can you have a motion? Motion.
You don't hardly ever say thing. Anyway, Ms. Donnell made the motion, Ms. Carlton seconds it. If you're in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. This meeting's
Miss
adjourned.
Murray, will you come up, please, and meet the board members?